You're listening to the Dibbly-Dobbly podcast. Remember to like, share, comment, subscribe, and click the bell to make sure you get the latest episodes of the podcast. Be sure to like and share our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter and on Instagram.
I'm Ben Ferbrache, player development manager and pathway lead at Guernsey Cricket, and you're listening to the Dibbly-Dobbly podcast.
Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Dibbly-Dobbly podcast. And on the podcast, we have started a new series on the podcast, looking at associate nations within cricket and how they are developing the game in their country. Many of us cricket fans know so much about the established cricketing countries and not enough on the associate nations who play cricket. So it would be nice to learn more about those associate countries, and via the podcast, people can learn more as well. For today's Associate Cricket Series episode, we are discussing all things Guernsey cricket, and joining me to discuss and talk all things Guernsey cricket is Guernsey cricketer, player development manager, pathway lead, and women's head coach of the Guernsey women's cricket team, Ben Ferbrache. Ben, welcome.
Thanks very much for having me on.
It's great to have you here, Ben. Thank you for giving up your time to speak to me about Guernsey cricket and being a part of this Associate Cricket Series on the podcast, which is pretty much aimed at educating people about these associate countries around the world, because many people listening or watching this episode, Ben, would say, Guernsey cricket? Small Channel Island? No. But they do. They've been playing cricket for years and they've done pretty well over the years. And obviously you've been a part of the men's side and obviously various roles in Guernsey cricket, which you'll speak about in our chat today. But also educate all of us about cricket in Guernsey and how the sport is really growing and developing. So that's why we started the series in the first place. And a lot of people have learned a lot from the various guests that we've interviewed. So you joined the club today, Ben. You joined the club of various guests that we've had on and looking to spread your cricket wisdom with all of us today. So once again, thank you for coming on and having a chat with me.
No, thank you very much. Obviously, we're really grateful to be able to talk about Guernsey cricket as well.
Yes, absolutely. I'm certainly chomping at the bit to really learn a lot from this episode and speaking to you. But before we do that, Ben, as I do with all my guests that I've interviewed on the podcast, I like to take them back to when they first got into cricket. And it's been very fascinating listening to people's memories on how they started to get into cricket. So, Ben, let's go back to the very beginning. I know that's a long time ago. Time flies. What were your earliest memories of watching, playing, and even going to the cricket? And who were some of your cricketing idols that you looked up to growing up?
So, yeah, going back to when I sort of first started, probably quite a late starter. I think I started at around about sort of 9 or 10. I just moved primary schools and went to a public school, which actually ended up playing proper cricket, hardball cricket. So sort of thrown in at the deep end. So, yeah, when I moved to that school, it was all on cricket. Football was my main sport before then. As well as tennis was my other main sport. So, yeah, I had sort of the hand-eye coordination, if you like. But, yeah, my sort of early childhood, I probably didn't play a lot of cricket as a real youngster. And then, yeah, we sort of watched a lot on TV. There was a lot more on sort of terrestrial TV there. I'm fortunate enough to have 2 elder brothers. So we were constantly in the garden, and it was usually whatever was on TV, we'd be playing. So if it was the football Premier League or something like that, we'd be in the garden playing football. If it was the 95 World Cup, we'd be in the garden playing cricket for the World Cup. When it was Wimbledon, we'd mark out a tennis court. So yeah, we're real active kids. And yeah, so that's kind of my first sort of memories are sort of playing in the garden with some sort of like real average kit, if you like. We used to use garden gloves as keeping gloves. So yeah, they weren't the easiest to catch with, but funny nonetheless. And yeah, when you're sort of 7 or 8, probably when we used to mess around in the garden before it got serious, when your brother's 6 years older than you, charging in, bowling as fast as he can, you're sort of thinking, yeah, I'm not sure I'm cut out for this. But yeah, no, it was good. But yeah, that's kind of like my earliest memories of sort of playing a little bit in the garden and mainly at school. And then sort of cricketing idols. For me, in Guernsey, I had a few. I had a few that somebody that worked for my parents, who was also went on to be Guernsey captain. So Stu Lepreva, I'd probably never tell him that to himself. But yeah, he's also a groundsman here at the ground where we're based. But he was always someone I sort of looked up to, and you know, he was a really good cricketer, and someone that I really looked up to in Guernsey. And then sort of further afield from that, my main sort of cricketing idol was AB de Villiers. Really, is sort of someone that I just always looked up to and thought was fantastic. And then sort of going through the years, is someone like Darren Gough was someone I loved as a kid. I was never really a bowler. I was an off spinner, and I batted, really more of a batter than an off spinner. So someone like Darren Gough was hard to sort of have that connection with him being a fast bowler. But I just loved the way he played the game. Always with a smile on his face. He was quite a cheeky sort of guy. But yeah, for me, AB was the one that is just, I still think now he could play the game and still be competing at the highest level.
Yes, absolutely, Mr. 360. I used to call him. He was a pretty good player, AB de Villiers. Legend of South African cricket, and did things that you would never imagine would be ever done by a batter on a cricket field, but he did it. Yeah, especially exactly. That World Cup innings he played in Sydney against the West Indies in 2015 was pretty good.
Yeah,
he definitely took the West Indies apart in that game, in that World Cup, and did a lot of things on the field as well. And you mentioned Darren Gough as well. Quite a fiery character from Yorkshire, of course, Darren Gough, and but always bowled with passion, and wore his heart on his sleeve, and got the job done for England on numerous occasions, and did what he did. Yes, I can certainly relate to the backyard stuff there, Ben, as you mentioned, using gardening gloves for wicket-keeping gloves. I used to do that too. Things that you could find in the garden shed that you could use for a stump or
exactly,
or a bat. I used to do that. I'm pretty sure many people would do that as well growing up, and great memories in the backyard. That's where you start, and that's where the love and the passion of the game comes from, and also that's where it blossoms. How would you describe yourself as a cricketer in club cricket? Dan, we'll get on to your international stuff with Guernsey in a minute.
Sort of someone that's for the same club now for probably since I was 18. So you're looking at not shy of 20 years there. And the club I played for before was a club that the only reason I sort of left them was they merged with another club. So the club identity was sort of gone. So I went and played with my friends at another club. So I played for Cobo in Guernsey. I've always sort of been someone that's quite keen and quite passionate about being almost like a one club man. I like that sort of story. And then obviously I play a little bit in the UK as well. So I played for Middleton, which I was very fortunate in sort of 2015. They gave me an opportunity to go and play for them. And I sort of jumped at that, and they've been, really, really supportive ever since. My first year there was great. We had Joff Archer as our overseas. So got to play a bit of cricket with Joff, which was good. And yeah, it's kind of like, for me in club cricket, it's something that we were speaking about the other day. A couple of lads were speaking, and we said the bits you'll probably miss is the camaraderie and the sort of banter around the dressing room as much as the playing, which is, that's the sort of fun bits, when you're having those chats and laughs out on the side in the dressing room. That that's a great part of cricket.
Yeah, it is, definitely. I wouldn't like to face Joff Archer in club cricket bowling from his long run.
Fortunately for me, with me being based in Guernsey, I used to fly in on a Saturday to play the game of cricket and leave on the Sunday. So I never had to face him in training. But yeah, he certainly was a nice guy to have to field to. You can give a bit of chat to the batters and sort of know that it's not going to be coming back your way too quickly with Joff at the top of his mark. So yeah, no, that was nice.
Yes, well, let's hope he can come back and play for England. Obviously, he's had his setbacks and injuries. So let's hope he can get back on the park and terrorise batters as he did to Steve Smith in that Test match at Lords, where bowled him that bouncer and Smith was on the ground as quick as a flash. So he can be very quick and fast and very intimidating. So thank goodness you didn't have to face him. But
definitely
the guys that had to face him as well. Oh dear. So thanks for sharing that. And your early informative years into the game, and your memories when you were starting to play the game. And then we go into playing for Guernsey, and you've been around the setup with the men's side since 2005 and embarked on your international journey. And then you've achieved a lot of great things along the way. You appointed vice captain in 2015, and then you captained a game for the side against Oman, which was a great honor. You hold the record for the most caps by a Guernsey player, 90, which is quite a lot when you think about it, looking back. And you've helped Guernsey get promoted from World Cricket League Division 7 and won the ICC Cricket League Division 6 title. So a lot of great achievements along the way. And then obviously maybe the cherry on top of the cake probably, Ben, is to, make your T20 national debut, to, do that for Guernsey against the rivals in Jersey. After the ICC decided to award T20 national status to all associate countries a few years back, which is a good move. So you had that opportunity to, make your debut with that status tagged to that, which was a great thing. And it was a tie in that game that you debuted in against Jersey, and the scores were leveled, and Jersey won on the super over, and you batted at number 5 and made 17 and 23 and took a catch, which is not bad. And the rest is history, as they say. And that was back in 2019, and now we're in 2024. So Ben, tell us that moment when you realized that you would be in the team and to become an international cricketer from, when you first started many, many years ago.
Yes, there's quite a bit of buzz around it, actually. So when we sort of found out that the ICC were going to make everything into official T20Is, that was the kind of crazy thing that we were speaking about, is that our stats would be next to sort of, your likes of Ben Stokes, Pat Cummins, whoever, so you could see your stats against all these great internationals. So yeah, there was a lot of pride there to play official international matches. And even before that, I've always been someone that's really passionate about playing for Guernsey. Always tried to work as hard as I can to honour that. We're obviously only amateurs, but to me, it was kind of a way that I got to play cricket at the highest level, and I've always just tried to do that. And like playing for Guernsey is something which is a great honour. With us being such a small sort of community, that sort of link into Guernsey cricket is just a great experience. And yeah, something that I'd never change. Made some great friends through the way, through various teams. It's sort of no secret that I'm probably towards the back of my playing days now. I'm still sort of trying to chip away in there. I think the bit of advice that I've always had from a couple of people is, with cricket, you're a long time retired, so don't retire too early, and that's kind of what's sort of ringing true at the moment. So yeah, it's nice to still be involved. But yeah, it's a great honour to play for Guernsey, and those T20Is are a huge carrot for anyone coming through the age group system.
Yes, definitely. Absolutely. It's probably the best move that the ICC could make, really, in terms of doing that across the board for associate countries, whereas that didn't used to be the case. And, where, as you said, stats, you have all these different sort of records of teams getting bowled out for 15 or something like that, or scoring 300 in the game, which is just crazy. But, that's just the way it is, really, when these things happen. And it's just adds to the chaoticness of associate cricket, really. It's always chaotic on and off the field. We're interviewing a lot of people, Ben, especially players, especially women players, female players that I've interviewed in this series. And, the whole vibe of associate cricket is that everyone's very humble. Everyone's very grateful for the opportunities to be here to play international cricket. It sort of reminds me of club cricket in a way, really, where you don't have much resources or anything like that. And we'll talk about that a bit later.
But I think
it's just that humbleness and gratefulness and, being grounded and just being grateful for these opportunities.
Yeah, I mean, I've managed to travel the world through ICC tournaments, which is incredible, really. We've played in sort of Singapore, Malaysia, South Africa, even just to the UK, to Finland, and all these sorts of places where, I mean, that's really exciting that we've been able to do that through associate cricket and through ICC cricket, which is great.
Yes, absolutely. Just these opportunities and just making the most of every opportunity and, just doing your best for Guernsey. And that's what you've done in your career. And hopefully, you still got a lot more in the tank, and hopefully can do some good things with the team going forward. There's a lot of things that you want to probably get done in terms of goals and, tournaments and, all that stuff. And as you talk about as a team wanting to win series and wanting to qualify for T20 World Cups or winning different competitions under the ICC. So
yeah, it's good. That we've got a big tournament this year actually, which is in the back end of August, which is the sort of first sort of step onto a World Cup qualification. So we're Division 2 qualifier, and then with that we'd go into a Division 1 playoff if we get out of the Division 2. With the likes of it will likely be Scotland. I think Holland have come back down into that. So you're getting quite competitive associate nations there, who are of a pretty decent level, obviously, with a lot of professional players playing in their ranks as well. So yeah, that's kind of like the pinnacle of the season. I myself have got to have a good season before that to sort of stand a chance of getting selected. But yeah, we'll see how the season goes, and things being well, I'll hopefully be in that squad.
Yes, hopefully, fingers crossed, and hopefully you can put in the good performances for the selectors to make that decision and select you in the playing squad. So thank you for sharing that, Ben, with us. And also, my other question to you is that you hold many different roles at Guernsey Cricket. You're a player, of course. You're the player development manager and pathway leader, and women's head coach of the women's side. There's a big responsibilities, and that's the thing with associate cricket, isn't it? That you wear many different hats and you have limited resources with people behind the scenes. So everyone has to chip in when they can. So Ben, how important is it for you to maintain a healthy balance between cricket and real life? And can you tell us a bit more about your various roles?
Yeah, so I think it is really important. Obviously, being so heavily involved in cricket, sometimes it can feel like everything you do is in cricket. So for me, my sort of switch off times are around. I still play tennis to a very good level as well. So playing a bit of tennis, and then more importantly, spending a bit of time with family, my wife, and we've got a little dog. So even if you're going out for a walk or something like that, just trying to switch off from the game. It's more so that I think that I probably take to heart more than the playing, because obviously there's a lot more sort of riding on that, if you like, and I sort of feel more responsible as a coach than I probably do as a player, because it's other people's sort of careers there that I'm trying to develop and sort of help. But yeah, so in terms of the actual roles, for me, I was cricket development manager before taking a new role last April. So I sort of looked after everything from sort of grassroots all the way up to I actually did coach up until under 19s. When I first came in, I assisted someone else at the elder age group. So I assisted the 19s and the 17s and the 15s, and sort of looked after the 11s and 13s. That's changed slightly now. So I'm now the player development lead and the pathway lead. And with that, actually, I look after the pathway a bit more. So more your representative squads, your age groups in the boy side of things. And that goes from anything from under 11s all the way through to under 19s. And then alongside that, I also took on the role of women's head coach, which is a great honour. So yeah, last year was the first time we've ever got an ICC ranking. So we beat Austria in a series last year, which is a great honour, and sort of something that we've probably been working on for last 3 or 4 years. I've been assistant coach before then, and it was something that was sort of on our radar. Then sort of, when I took on the head coach role, it was definitely sort of the top of my priority list. And then we most recently just played a series with that group in Jersey and Hampshire, sorry. And with that, playing in Hampshire, we beat the Isle of Man 3-0 in the series. So we're hopeful that our ranking will sort of jump quite a bit higher. So we're hopefully around about sort of 12 places into sort of like the top 40. So yeah, it's kind of really exciting. We've got a great group there with the women's team as well. Yeah, that's kind of the nice bit. And like you said, I think that's the main thing is with associate cricket is we haven't got the resources, we haven't got the finances of the bigger nations. The funding's not quite as big as them. So you are leaning more on us as staff to do a bit more. We're also heavily reliant on volunteers, and we owe a lot to them. We've got some great volunteers in the system throughout the age groups, and some fantastic cricket coaches there who are just giving up their time just for us guys to maintain a program that we're trying to achieve. Which is, I think we're incredibly grateful that in Guernsey, a small community, we rely heavily on them, and those guys are, really great for us as Guernsey.
Yeah, absolutely, and you should be proud of that as well. And well, you've certainly got your plate full, that's for sure. Balancing all these different roles, and well, we wish you all the best in those various roles, and great responsibility in those roles as well. But yeah, as you said, it's important just to maintain that healthy balance, and make sure you balance that right, and just make sure you're not burnt out, and you're refreshed and refocused to excel in those various roles. So thanks for sharing that with us, Ben. Obviously, Ben, many players have mentors that they've turned to when they are struggling and need help within their game, and especially in the game of cricket. And many people have helped you on your journey, I'm sure, as is the case with cricketers that play at the high level. So, Ben, who have been the mentors that you've turned to in your cricket career when you've been struggling, you need some guidance and some help?
So, yeah, I've been really fortunate as a player to have some great coaches along the way. Someone that I really connected with and sort of owe a lot to getting to the level that I've been at is Nick Pothas. He used to be with Hampshire, and he came over to Guernsey and was head coach from probably around about 2014. I'd probably say that he joined. But that sort of period was where I really kicked on as a cricketer. And yeah, I owe a lot to Skeg for what he's done for me. Completely changed my game, and he's just been a great guy. He's also someone that, even now, if I sent him a text or a video and said, Skeg, what's going on? Like, how come I can't hit it? He'll literally come in and analyze it and give me a breakdown real quick and just say, look, this is what you need to do. Has passed. I think the funny thing was I was having a session a couple of years ago now. We hadn't seen him for a few years, and I was with one of my best mates, Josh, who's the groundsman here at KG5, and he was having a net as well. He was the then captain of Guernsey, and when we were having a net, he was like, "I love how honest he is." And then I went in and had a hit, and it was quite funny. He just said to me, "What are you doing?" He's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "You know what you'd like, come here." And he's like tweaked a few things. 2 or 3 things, then all of a sudden I just started hitting it again. It was like completely different. But yeah, he's just got a really good coaching sort of demeanor. I love how sort of honest and brutal he is, and I know that doesn't work for everyone, but for me, that's fantastic. And yeah, he's kind of someone that's really, I owe quite a lot to as a senior player. And then actually our current head coach, Jeremy Frith, played a lot of associate cricket with him as well. He was my coach as a youngster. And as a youngster, you probably don't appreciate someone's doing quite a lot for you, and you probably don't really understand it because you're probably a bit too young. But I go back to some training sessions where we used to do certain things, lots of tennis ball drills. We're in a tiny little school gym. And yeah, I probably didn't appreciate, and I probably still don't appreciate how much that developed my game and how much sort of time and energy he put into it then. And it's done the sort of full circle with him coming back involved now. So yeah, with him getting back involved, yeah, I probably don't fully appreciate how much he did as a coach as well. But yeah, sort of Nick Pothas is the main one, and then we had a coach after that as well, Ash Wright, who's now with Sussex, the assistant batting coach, and Ash actually was great for me as well. Ash was the opposite to Skegel, to Nick, very relaxed, very calm, sort of a real funny guy. But yeah, completely different way of coaching. But actually, I really connected with both of them. And yeah, for very different reasons. But yeah, I think those sorts of 3 names are the ones that I owe a lot to play like I have done. But yeah, and then with regards to sort of coaching, I've also got a mentor here at the moment. Craig Hogan's over, and he's been brilliant since he's come in. So he's only been here a month. He's just here for the summer, but Hogs has been fantastic. So he's an Australian based in Melbourne. And he's actually been great for me. Like, he's just given me a load of time, explained how a pathway should really run. So your difficulty in Guernsey is we're such a small nation. We don't have those direct links into the UK. We can't just go over and chat to somebody or see a session being run. It's our own session. So it's leaning on him for those. He he set up Island Academy. So a few years back. So actually, with him setting up Island Academy, he's been great for me. So yeah, I'm going to probably continue to lean on him throughout the summer with regards to my coaching. So yeah, no, but there's probably more and more people that I've not thanked on the way. But yeah, those are the sort of standout ones.
Yeah, definitely. It's always good to have those people that you can turn to and rely on for advice and guidance, and that's very important to have in your corner. So thanks for sharing that with us, Ben. And Ben, over your career, you've played with some and against the best players in the world. Played at some of the most iconic grounds in world cricket, and been to so many countries while playing cricket. So Ben, if you had to choose your favourite player to play with and against, your favourite ground, and your favourite country that you've played cricket in, what would they be? I know that's a bit of a mouthful, but if you can try and decipher that for us, that'd be great.
Probably favourite player. I think we went through a really good era in Guernsey cricket. 2011, we had a great squad there, and someone that played for us, and I played a bit of club cricket with him as well, was a guy called Gary Rich. So Gary was like pretty old school in the way he played the game, real tough competitor. But yeah, I really enjoyed playing with him. You knew he'd have your back at any stage, and someone that I've had great moments on and off the pitch. One of my good friends, Jamie Nussbaumer, as well, was a great guy. He's ex-Guernsey captain. And yeah, we sort of had a great connection. We sort of shared our international journey at the exact same time. So he was always my roomie on tour, a great guy, and someone that I just really enjoy playing with. But yeah, it's kind of hard to single out just, one or two people. There's probably 4 or 5 there that were brilliant for my development. We mentioned Jeremy Frith before. So Frithy as a player was unbelievable, and helped my game no ends. And then a guy, Stula Prevo, I said, was one of the guys that I looked up to. So yeah, he was also someone that was just fantastic. And then sort of finally a guy called Lee Savadont who used to play for Hampshire. So when I first came through, I just found he broke the game down so easily. He almost told me where I was going to hit the ball. At the end of each over, he'd say, right, you're going to hit the ball here. We're going to run this many runs, and this is how we're going to do it. And it was just such a simple game that he spoke, that I've never found a game that simple as sort of almost he did, which was great. So yeah, those sorts of guys are the ones that probably I look up to. And I realise they're probably all guys that I played when I first started coming through the Guernsey stuff. That takes nothing away from the guys I'm playing with the mates, but they're just the ones where we have some quite strong memories from what we used to do, where we were in that era. In terms of grounds, so I think in Guernsey we're a little bit biased. We've got 2 main grounds here in Guernsey, and if you went to the college like I did, you play at College Field, so you kind of just love that ground. It's an old school pavilion. It's got surrounded by trees. That was really, really pretty and a really nice ground. And then sort of the other one that sticks out to me is a couple of ovals in Malaysia. So there's Kim Rara, which had a big media centre on it, which was like an international ground. I think Australia actually played a couple of games there. And then Biomass was the other one there as well, which, yeah, just like some couple of really different grounds. But yeah, in terms of something which has probably got a bit nostalgia to it, it's the College Field. Obviously, I went through there as a student, as a kid. I captained the school. So that one's probably one. And I always enjoy playing there. I think when you play at the same ground sort of week in, week out, like we do here at the KG5, you probably don't appreciate it as much because you're there all the time. And then, yeah, those couple that I mentioned there are pretty special just because they were grounds where international games have been played. They were cool. And it was just a different sort of oval, if you like. But yeah, those ones were real good experiences. Favorite country? I've always quite liked playing in Australia. So I've done 2 winters there. Did a winter in Sydney. Did a winter in Melbourne as well, most recently. And I kind of these guys just love cricket. And, they're amateur cricketers, but they'll train twice a week and they'll play both days on the weekend if they have to. And they'll play a game in the week as well. They're sort of playing 4 or 5 times a week. Which I think is something that every nation can learn from. They just seem to just absolutely love the game in Australia, and they're very committed people with regards to their cricket at an amateur level, which is great to see.
Yes, absolutely. I can definitely vouch for that. In my club, yeah, everyone's pretty committed, and we have structures and plans, and this is how we're going to play our cricket on the weekend. And yeah, definitely a lot of countries can learn from Australia in terms of how that growth and development side goes about it in terms of that, and which we'll speak about a bit later on in our chat, Ben. But yeah, thanks for trying to decipher that long question there. So you did pretty well. So thanks for sharing all that with us, Ben. Your career isn't done yet, Ben, and you still have more to offer in the game and for Guernsey. You're getting towards the end. There's light at the end of the tunnel, the finishing line's there. But you still have more to offer while you're still able to play and still feel good and healthy and fit. Do you ever take a moment to reflect on your journey, and what are you most proud of, and do you have any regrets?
In terms of regrets, no, I don't have any regrets really about anything to do with playing. I sort of see things like that haven't quite gone right as learning experiences rather than the regret. And yeah, you might not make the same decision that you would have made at that situation, but that's kind of something that puts you in a better place going forwards. Do I ever reflect? Yeah, probably more now than I ever have, because of probably, like you say, sort of towards the back end of playing. I still want to play as long as I can. Like I said, I think a few people have always said to me that, you're a long time retired, and you can't really come back from that. And yeah, I think for me, it's a good way of seeing mates as well as playing some sport. So, your club stuff is all a bit fun. And then, yeah, with Guernsey, it's trying to get Guernsey to a level where I'm sort of hopeful that I'll start handing over my place to somebody that I've coached coming through the system. And then that will sort of mean that I've done my job properly as well. And that will give me sort of great pride. I have got ambitions to try and get to 100 caps. So yeah, on 90 at the moment, that's going to be quite a tough ask to get to 100. We only really play probably in terms of ICC or representative fixtures. We've got a tournament this year, so that there's a few games there, but it's never more than sort of 6 or 7 games a year. But we do have loads of friendlies which don't count towards your caps. So yeah, I think I've already played 5 games this season for Guernsey, which yeah, none of those count towards. So I mean, I'd probably be somewhere close to 200, I think, if actually all of those counted. But yeah, that's sort of like a future ambition. In terms of what I'm most proud of is actually just pulling on that green shirt. So, pulling on the Guernsey shirt and actually, achieving what we've achieved in Guernsey cricket. And I still think there's more that we can achieve. I think for me is someone that's given up, who's not the most naturally gifted cricketer. I've had to work really hard at it. But 90 caps for Guernsey, being the most capped player, is quite an honour. And there's plenty of players that have played who haven't played as much as me, who are much better than me, and probably deserve more time. But through injuries and age, when they started playing ICC cricket, that's not been achievable for them. So yeah, something that I'm incredibly proud of is playing that amount of fixtures for Guernsey.
Yeah, absolutely, and you should be proud, as you do when you look back on these things and say, "Wow, I can't believe I actually did that. I can't actually believe I actually embarked on this journey and loving every minute of it," which is important. I think we lose sight of that in the game sometimes. Is it at the end of the day, it's a game and it's to be enjoyed, not to be taken seriously. So just enjoy it, because it doesn't last forever, like many things in life. So thanks for sharing that with us, Ben. Ben, what advice would you give to any young girls and boys who want to play cricket or sport and have ambitions of playing cricket or sport at the highest level? What advice would you give to those girls and boys who really want to aim high in terms of the sporting ranks?
So I think you touched on it just then, that never stop playing for the enjoyment. So if you stop enjoying the game and actually the fun element goes out of it, it doesn't matter what level you get to. I think that's quite tough to then try and get out of that. For me, is you've got to be playing because you enjoy playing, not because either if you're definitely good enough to it's paying the bills. I think that you want it to be, that you're still enjoying it. If you're waking up on a Saturday morning, you're hoping the rain's coming. Well, that's probably your time to sort of say, that you're not enjoying it. So yeah, definitely keep the enjoyment aspect. And then I think it's that, how much time are you willing to give to it? So if you're really serious about making it to the highest level possible, well, a lot of people I've had conversations with have said, yeah, I really want to play professional, and they're training for an hour a week. Well, you're probably not going to get to that level of the game unless you're incredibly talented and you have some natural sort of ability and flair in there. Yeah, I think you've got to appreciate that if you want to get to the top of the game, you're going to have to work incredibly hard. You're going to have to probably put it outside your comfort zone a lot of the time, because that's the only way you're going to improve. So that might be, if you're a batter, might be facing someone who's a bit quick. It might be putting yourself in situations, if you're a youngster playing upper level and playing into men's cricket. It's all those little bits where actually, with those small things, which could put you ahead of your peers in your own age group, by actually putting yourself outside your comfort zone. So yeah, it's sort of two things, mainly the fun aspect and the hard work. I think, yeah, nothing comes easily. So you've got to work hard at it. And that's not only in sport, that's in everything. So yeah, I think that's the main thing.
Definitely a great advice there, Ben. I couldn't agree more with that piece of advice there. And also thanks for sharing your cricket journey with us. And it's been interesting hearing your recollections from your journey and reflecting on your career as well. And I'm sure people listening and watching have learned a lot as well, and probably will pay close attention to you now after this chat with me today, in further performances and games for Guernsey. So thanks for sharing that with us, Ben. That's much appreciated. Ben, I thought to start this interview on Guernsey cricket, let's talk about the history of cricket in Guernsey. You can learn a lot from about cricket from its history, and the history of cricket in Guernsey is quite interesting. So Ben, give us a brief overview on the history of cricket in Guernsey.
So yeah, we founded in 1927. Guernsey Cricket was. We're sort of responsible for all cricket in the bailiwick of Guernsey. So yeah, that includes sort of 3 or 4 neighbouring islands. We turned into an associate member in 2008. So we joined the ICC in 2008. Before that, we played in sort of some English competitions, some ECB competitions. We played as Guernsey and Jersey played together as the Channel Islands. But yeah, sort of before that, it was more of a game where it was very amateur, played a lot. We had really good local leagues. And then sort of, yeah, in 2008, the Guernsey Cricket made the decision to join the ICC and really try and professionalise the game a little bit more. So although we are amateurs, it's really making sure that there's a pathway for someone that might want to play all the way from Guernsey or cricket in Guernsey, that might have ambitions to play for England as well. So that's not saying that they're not going to play for Guernsey. That means they're probably going to play for Guernsey at some way in that journey. And it might be somewhere on the way up, or it might be somewhere on the way down as well. But yeah, sort of the outline of that is really when Guernsey cricket kind of got serious was 2008 because of the ICC involvement. And with that becomes, there's certain bits that we have to do for the ICC, certain scorecards, etc. you have to fill in, which actually makes you really accountable. So there's a lot of accountability there as well.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. And thanks for sharing that brief history lesson with us, Ben, on Guernsey cricket. I know history isn't everyone's cup of tea, but certainly cricket history is quite interesting as well. Learning about how the game originates from these countries around the world, especially in these associate countries. It's very quite similar across the board, actually, how the game was introduced and how the game got established. So definitely. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that with us, Ben, in terms of how the game of cricket became to be really in Guernsey and how it continues to grow and prosper to this day. So thanks for that. Ben, let's talk about the Guernsey national cricket teams, women's and men's. It'd be good to gain your insights on the two teams and learn more about their achievements, the players' stories, because many of the players come from diverse backgrounds. And obviously this is ideal for you, being a player of the men's side and the women's head coach. So you'll definitely have some wonderful insights for us. So Ben, for those who may not know a lot about the Guernsey women's and men's teams, can you tell us more about them and the players and some of their stories?
Yeah, so with regards to the men's, it's like I said there, being part of the ICC Associates since 2008, we've had some fantastic players go through. Like I said, no one's paid in Guernsey. Everyone's an amateur, so everyone's an amateur in Guernsey. and they just do it because they really enjoy playing cricket and probably want to develop themselves as far as they can. In sort of the men's squads, we've got people who are gym instructors, people who are teachers, guys that work in finance. So Guernsey's a heavy finance background. And yeah, we sort of have always competed really well. I think that's the thing that shocks sort of English club sides when they come here, or English guys that move to Guernsey, is when they move to Guernsey is sort of the level of cricket in Guernsey. And then with that, you obviously have your strongest players playing for Guernsey men's national team. So yeah, the sort of if I had to pick out some sort of gun players, if you like, at the moment, you've got Matt Stokes and Tommy Nightingale, as well as Josh Butler with the bat, are pretty special and scoring a lot of runs. Then you've got Zach Damrell as our keeper batter. He's a very strong keeper batter. And then with regards to bowling, a lot of younger guys coming through in the bowling. So you've got someone that's sort of seen as a senior pro, but he's only 21, I think he is now, is Luke Bishard, who's been strong for Guernsey for a few years now. And then we've got two guys coming through who are involved with Hampshire as well. So Charlie Forshaw and Harry Johnson, both involved with Hampshire, which is kind of exciting to see where their journey can go, not only with Guernsey, but even further. So that's sort of your men's setup. With regards to the women's team, again, everyone's an amateur. All are sort of aspiring to have the same journey of playing international cricket and getting to the highest level as possible. We've got sort of 3 or 4 teachers in the squad, some guys, some girls working in finance as well. And then, yeah, alongside that, we've just got a real mix in that group of sort of younger and older players. So some more established girls that have been playing for probably, I don't know, a lot of them have been playing for sort of 10 years. And then there's some really new who are just coming through. So quite exciting about that. They've obviously just been away to Hampshire this last weekend, beat the Isle of Man 3-0 in the series then. So with that, the sort of standout performers across the weekend is everyone really chipped in. But if one person stood out, that was Hannah Meacham. She took a 6 in game 2. I think it was 3 overs, 6 for 6. Which is incredible. She's 9th on the all-time bowling figures now in ICC T20Is, which is crazy, really. Hans had a pretty long cricket career, pretty mixed as well. So she played a bit of county cricket sort of many years ago for Somerset and Sussex, and has come back to Guernsey. She's a teacher, also a cricket coach, so she looks after our girls' pathway at the moment. And yeah, she had a fantastic weekend. So seeing stuff like that, that the players wise, something that sort of the women's team is really good on is not sort of reliant on 1 or 2 players. Is the nice thing is that everyone sort of contributes to the team. When I looked at the batting order, I could have literally flipped it upside down. It would have been as strong as it was the other way. So that's kind of a nice thing to have. But yes, we're not really reliant on 1 or 2 people. We sort of all chip in, which is really nice.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is the main thing. Everyone's got to do their role from 1 to 11, I suppose. So it's good to hear that both teams are really doing well and getting things done. In terms of rankings, obviously, Ben, that's spoken a lot about in associate cricket because the ICC recently included T20 international rankings to be a part of the funding model. So the higher you finish up in the rankings, the more funding you will get. Is there any pressure on both teams to, when it comes to the rankings, or you're not so much driven by that? You're more driven by results and winning tournaments and series rather than rankings that will just happen?
Yes and no. Obviously, rankings are important, and it's an honour thing there as well to go higher up in the rankings. With that, so for us, we focus a lot of our time and energy in the pathway to try and get these players and have a bigger playing pool for players to come through and play for Guernsey. And I think if we get that bit right, then actually the men's and women's national team will also, reap the benefits of that, because we're going to have stronger players coming through, and more of them means more competitive places. Which if that happens, we will go up the rankings. there's sort of no secret that the higher you get, the tougher it's going to get, just because of those resources. So sides do have larger resources. I think if you look at Jersey, who's our neighbouring island right next to us, they've been into the 20s, I'm pretty sure, in the rankings. So that's somewhere which is sort of achievable for us, I think, because we'll have similar, playing pool to them. They are a bigger country than us, but yeah, that's someone where we can have like a direct sort of correlation across to. So with that, yeah, I think there is a little bit of pressure on the rankings, but it's not the be all and end all of everything we do. A lot of the stuff is done in the pathway. So a lot of it is about the development of junior players coming through. And that's not to the detriment of the senior players. The senior players still play a vital role. And yeah, I think that's kind of the exciting bit about Guernsey cricket, is that we could have, in the next 5 years, we could really stride up the rankings, as long as we get sort of the player pathway correct, which is sort of down to me a little bit. So that's my main role, is the pathway. And someone else looks after the pathway for the girls program, but I do have obviously a bit of an oversight on that, being the national team coach. But yeah, I think that's kind of, there is that little bit of pressure, like we said, but it's not the be all and end all. It's more about the bigger picture, I think, is the best way to describe it.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's just one of those things that associate countries have to have an eye on, because, that's how you progress and grow and develop.
I think last year we were exceptionally close to, in the end, getting into the 50 over tournament for the men's, by sort of chance as well, because we beat Germany, which we didn't think we would do. And then all of a sudden we were right on the cusp of qualifying for 50 over cricket. Now, if you qualify 50 over cricket, that does bring you some more funding. But also the challenge you've then got there is actually, not only does it bring you funding, but it also brings you a lot more time and effort for the players. So you do need a bigger playing pool, because you can't just have the same guys having sort of 9-10 weeks off work a year. It just doesn't work like that. They're all amateurs. And again, no one will get paid. So with that, you're asking people to use all their annual leave to spend it on cricket, and not any of their annual leave to actually spend it with family and friends, sort of thing. So yeah, that's again where the higher you get up the rankings, the bigger the playing pool you need, because you actually do need those players. You can't rely on the same ones to play sort of week in, week out.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And you touched on ODI cricket there, Ben. In terms of, both national teams are playing a lot of T20 cricket, which is the case in associate countries. They don't play a lot of one-day cricket as it is, but they do play in tournaments to qualify for, on their way to a 50-over World Cup for the men's side, and trying to work towards that. And I think it's a similar thing with the women's as well. Are there any objectives and goals to, really crack into ODI cricket, or do you think realistically at the moment T20 cricket for us personally is our best way of, really performing well at the highest level and getting people into the sport?
So it's a tough one, really. So 50 over is very much on our radar. We definitely want to play in 50 over cricket. But the way to get into the 50 over structure is by actually qualifying through T20s. So you're sort of, you don't want to sink loads and loads of time into 50 over and solely play 50 over, because actually your T20s are really important. What we have done with both sides this year, the men's side, I know that Jeremy's set up a program which allows us to play both T20 and 50 over cricket. So we've already played Hampshire, Somerset and Ireland academies at 50 over cricket, as well as playing them at T20 cricket. So that's some real tough competitive cricket. And then the women's team this year will play the first longer format game they're going to play against the RAF women's side, who are coming over to Guernsey. So I think we're doing a bit of a mixture of games. We're going to do a T20, we're going to do a 40 over and a 30 over. So it actually just gives us a bit of a structure to show the longer format, which actually I think we as a nation are probably better at the longer format. We're better at batting time. We haven't got these guys that can come in and smash it 120 metres, which across both the women's and the men's game. But actually, like, the longer you bat, I think we've got some proper players that can bat time. So yeah, it's a real tricky one, because the only way to get back in, like I said, is by playing T20 cricket, which it's tough, because basically if you got to play the T20s to try and get close to the 50 over, but then when you get to the 50 over, you can't play that like a T20. So yeah, it's kind of tough. But I know our long-term objectives are that we play in both 50 over and T20 cricket.
Yeah, Definitely. But it seems always a very tough challenge for many associate nations, isn't it, Ben? Because, you're playing T20 constantly and then, try and move up into 50 over cricket and try and qualify for a World Cup. Do you think the ICC could better improve that process to transition into 50 over cricket for associate nations? Do you think they could do something better than they're doing now?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure what I haven't really looked at the structures that well and how they could do it, but actually, I think the old system that used to be the World Cricket Leagues before the Challenge Leagues, we were part of that, but sort of there was there 8 World Cricket Leagues, I think, when we first started. We got up as high as 5, but then sort of year on year, what happened with those World Cricket Leagues is that they sort of if you got relegated out of 7, then 8 went. When you got relegated out of 6, then the 7 went. And when you got relegated out of 5, which happened to us in probably somewhere around about 2018, 19, somewhere around then we got sort of taken out of the 50 over structure, and then the structure actually changed. So we were very close to being in the structure. The other thing which sort of hinders us slightly, if you like, is being in Europe. So being in Europe, that's a lot more nations playing in Europe than there is in any of the other conferences. So you've got the Americas, the Asian conferences. So with that, actually, it's a lot harder structure to get out of. Whereas actually, if you're in Americas, you might be slightly more benefited, by the less teams playing. That's not to say that the standard isn't as good, but you've probably got less teams to qualify through. But yeah, I'm not really sure what the right and wrong structure is, because I bet you if you ask somebody who's the right side of the cut-off line, they're probably saying it's absolutely fine and these structures are brilliant. So your likes of sort of Germany, Italy, teams like that around us, they're probably saying, yeah, the structure's fine, it works perfectly. If they're the other side of the line, they might not be saying the same. But yeah, it's kind of, for us, is how do we get back into that is through T20. So yeah, I think at the moment, there's so much funding riding on the ICT, the head at the top of the game with your test playing nations, and I fully appreciate that. That's they're the ones that bring in the revenue. They're the ones that bring in the eyes on the TV, paying for the tickets in the ground. So that is something which you've got to sort of understand and cater for, I think.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely, because a lot of people ask me, or people ask these questions about associate cricket, about the one-day stuff, and it's T20 is growing, and it's certainly the way forward for the game, and it's much easier to get people involved in the game rather than longer form of cricket, either playing 50 overs or 2-day cricket or anything like that. So T20 cricket for some countries is the way forward, and they don't really want to focus on getting into ODI cricket, but some other countries like yourself and others want to try and break into that and hopefully get into a 50 over World Cup. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there in the years to come in terms of what the ICC do with that, in terms of getting more countries especially associate countries into the 50 over format, which is in a bit of a tricky position at the moment, with its future being uncertain. Yeah. And the T20 World Cup certainly growing and developing as it is. So we'll have to wait and see on that. But it's good to hear that you have ambitions to crack into that again and play the longer form of, really essentially, which is sort of associate cricket's test cricket in a way, one-day cricket, really.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. And they won't have that opportunity to play any first-class cricket or anything like that. So one-day cricket for them is their own test cricket, and people want to play that longer form of the game. In terms of underage international teams, then under 19 teams, etc., for under 19 World Cups for both women's and men's. What are the plans regarding that? You have that in the works?
Yeah, so the boys side of things, our structure's been in place a lot longer. So we finished second last year in the European qualifiers, Division 1. We got pretty fortunate with the bits of weather. But yeah, we finished second there in that tournament, which was a great achievement and the highest finish we've ever had. our junior pathway is going in the right place. I think the structure there is really that it's allowing people to come through and play real competitive cricket. Below that, we enter a lot of county festivals for our under 13s, 15s, and then sort of we got a 17 side at the moment. So yeah, we enter that all the way up from 11s all the way through. And then, yeah, it goes into ICC at under 19 level. So but our ambitions there is we sort of said it last year that it's crazy to think, well, actually, if the structure that they got in place for the next World Cup qualifiers, if it was the same, we'd have actually gone to the World Cup. And that's mental to think that a side like us can go to the World Cup. You're only a few games away from the World Cup. That's sort of the way we looked at it. Was, I think, what did we have in there? We had 5 games, and we said we're 5 games away from a World Cup, which is crazy because that's the sort of level that we're competing at there. With regards to the girls, we've started a bit younger with the girls in that pathway. So we've got a lot of girls at under 11 and under 13s at the moment. It's going to take a few years for those to filter through, but we're hopeful that we'll have the exact same girl structure as we currently do in the boys. So that is from entry level at under 9s cricket going all the way through to seniors. And we're hopeful that in a few years' time that will replicate the boys program. We are wise enough that we know that's not going to happen overnight. So you need to sort of have the structure in place, and then each year that you have an age group going out of the age group, they obviously create your next age group. So when you're under 13s are moving through to under 15s, you've suddenly got an under 15 squad, and likewise when the 11s move through, you've got your 13s are bolstered for the next year. So yeah, that it's a big objective of ours that we will play more and more competitive cricket. Something that we've sort of highlighted is we don't play enough as kids, so as juniors. And with that, we've really pushed on this year having a big fixture program for every age group, including the girls. So we've got a lot at the under 13s, like I said. So they've got a tour coming on Ireland. So they're going to have sort of 4 or 5 fixtures which they wouldn't have had before. So that's kind of quite exciting. And then the boys. The under 15s have got a manic season this year, so they've got sort of 20, 25 fixtures. And then the 13s have got a few left, got sort of like 12 in there. And the 11s got similar. But with that, we're really looking at structures where we're giving these guys opportunities to play cricket as much as possible. And this is all sits outside of the club system as well. So this is only for Guernsey. So yeah, with that in place, I think, if a kid's playing sort of between 30 and sort of 50 games a year, well, they're going to be in a great place because they're going to develop a lot quicker.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very encouraging to hear you say that the junior pathways are really excelling and growing and developing, which is fantastic. That can only mean great things for them when they reach the national side in the years to come, when they rise through the ranks. In terms for the national team's ambitions and goals going forward into the future, obviously qualifying for T20 World Cups and tournaments, how do you see the future for both national teams, Ben, in terms of achieving that sort of goal of qualifying for a T20 World Cup one day? Do you see that happening for Guernsey in the near future?
I think, again, it comes back down to a lot is reliant on the pathway then. So we've got to get the pathway in place and the structure properly established, which is this is the first year of me being in this role. So with that, that's where we're going to be reliant on our players coming through to make sure that they are playing better cricket to then filter into the national teams. So with that, I think in a realistic ambition is that we'd love to go to a World Cup. We realise how hard that is. For us, I think it's getting to making sure that we're always in that Division 1 qualifier to give ourselves a chance of going. So being in the Division 1 qualifier will sort of be our near-term ambition to get to that level. With regards to the women's, we're a little bit further behind on that one, just because we're a bit newer to coming into ICC cricket. So yeah, last year, unfortunately, we missed out on a tournament that was in Jersey, but just because of our ranking and we were so new coming in. But yeah, if we can get into some actual tournament cricket with the women, I think that's our next sort of ambition and aim. We are entering the Nordic Cup this year, so that's in Norway. So we're going to go to the Nordic Cup, and that will be a great experience because we've played a lot of series where you play sort of 3 games or 4 games in a series, but we've never played anything where you've got a tournament where you've got 5 games against different opposition. So yeah, for us, that's kind of the women's ambitions and objectives at the moment. The men's are slightly different, so they're a bit ahead of that. But again, that's just because they've been on the pathway for longer than us as the women's team.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's good to hear that. You're really committed to reaching those goals and objectives, which is I suppose you have to be optimistic. I suppose when it comes to these things, and hopefully one day that will happen.
I think if you look at someone like a Holland or a Scotland or an Ireland, they were probably in the same position as us a few years back. So, and I think if you don't have those ambitions or goals, then sort of it's quite hard to stay motivated. So yeah, you've got to have those ambitions and goals, really.
Yeah, definitely, absolutely. In terms of the program for the women's and men's teams this year, Ben, what's on the horizon for them in 2024?
So we've just come off. So in terms of the men's, they played a lot of preseason games against Hampshire, Somerset, and Island Academies. They have got the MCC games at the end of the month, and then there's a tour to Belgium for them. There's the Belgium tour, which is the T20Is, and then off the back of that, it's back to Guernsey for a little bit of club cricket. And then you've got after that the ICC tournament in Guernsey, which is sort of like the pinnacle of their season. So that's the thing they're building up to. With regards to the women, we obviously just played Isle of Man, like I've said. That was a series which we didn't expect to win 3-0. So that's kind of put us ahead of our curve where we thought we were at, which is great. It's a great problem to have. But we have to reset our goals now and ambitions for the season. We're playing RAF at the end of the next month. So we've got RAF coming over to us. We've got 3 or 4 games against them. We've got a game against the neighbouring island Sark on the horizon there. Then sort of our big one is the Nordic Cup, which is played in Norway, and that's in the middle of August. So that's sort of like what we're leading up to for the season. We've also, off the back of having a few contacts in the UK, there is an academy called Academy North in Liverpool, who are going to bring over a women's side as well, potentially in September. So the women's season could be something which we've never had before. Lots and lots of fixtures with sort of 2 chunks of ICC cricket. We do also have Guernsey versus Jersey games in the middle of those. I know you spoke to Lee Malloy from Jersey a few weeks ago. We'll be playing them in some T20Is in the men's and women's game. They're tough games. Jersey are a decent side, but it's a good one to sort of for us to see where we're at and know where we're at in terms of our development, because actually that's something we play year in, year out, and we can see sort of how close or how far away we are with them. It's a very busy year, a lot of time off island, but it's what's needed to make the pathway run.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really encouraging to hear that, obviously, that you have more opportunities to play cricket and keep getting better and grow and develop. So that's fantastic to hear that. And thank you, Ben, for sharing your insights on both teams. And we wish you all the best for the rest of this year, and hopefully in the years to come with the men's side and the women's teams. And hopefully they can achieve a lot of great things. And our listeners will be watching and looking at the results more closely now after listening to our chat today, and see how Guernsey progress and develop on their international journey. So hopefully they can achieve great things going into the future. So we wish you all the best, Ben and the team, and hopefully we can see Guernsey cricket do a lot of great things. Beware, everyone, of Guernsey cricket. They're coming. Beware of them. They may surprise a few people in the years to come. Let's hope they do. And, who knows? We may see them at a major ICC event in the near future. So hopefully that's the case. So once again, thank you, Ben, for sharing those insights with us there. Ben, let's talk about the growth and development of cricket within Guernsey in terms of getting cricket into local communities, clubs, schools, and grassroots, etc. And Ben, this is one of the challenges that many associate nations have, is how they introduce cricket and promote it. That's easier said than done. I'm guessing you sit back in your chair, Ben, and scratch your head and ask yourself these questions all the time. How do we try and introduce cricket into the community? Grassroots cricket, establishing local cricket clubs in local communities, competitions, pathway systems, underage comps, which you've been looking at, and facilities, having nets, grounds available for people to access in their areas, and making cricket accessible for everyone, whether it be on TV or, access to certain things within the game, and getting cricket into schools in their sporting programs, getting young girls and boys into the sport from a young age. So Ben, what challenges does Guernsey cricket have in trying to grow and develop cricket in the Guernsey community? And do you see cricket becoming a mainstream sport in Guernsey anytime soon?
So we probably are sort of a main summer sport in Guernsey. With it being a really small community, there's a lot of sports that are really accessible in Guernsey. So it's making sure that you give people opportunities and work with other sports to make sure we're not trying to put something against each other, so we're not clashing in terms of our times that we want stuff on. For us, we're pretty fortunate in Guernsey. We have the Guernsey Sports Commission, which oversees, so they're like the wide governing body of sport in Guernsey. They oversee a lot of the school stuff. So they actually end up with the junior school program. They actually end up setting that up and sort of booking that for us. So we don't have to do that. So yeah, we have a coach going into primary schools. We see near enough every primary school in the island. And we have that culminates with a festival where we have games between the schools. And then with regards to secondary schools, that's something we're really pushing. So particularly state school cricket. I'm responsible for that. So I'm heading in to do an after school club at the moment where we've started our own little team playing against the other private schools. So the nice thing is they've got opportunities to play cricket. One thing that's I think is apparent in every country is cricket isn't the cheapest sport to play. So it's making sure we're breaking down those barriers of making it accessible to anybody. There's some really, really talented players that might not necessarily be able to afford the best kit. So it's how can we support them with that and actually keep them within playing cricket because they're vital towards our future. Sort of the question around how can we facilities is a key one for us. We're really, really key on trying to grow facilities. We're in the process of we've got 3 lanes here at the KG5. We're looking at some additional outdoor net facilities. We've sort of got 1 or 2 venues we use for indoor facilities. So what we're really trying to do is just have multiple opportunities for people to train and play. There's absolutely no way our program can run in 1 facility, so that's almost impossible. But actually across two that's achievable. But yeah, we are sort of something that we're really passionate about is a lot of the income or funding we get. We actually end up putting straight back into making facilities better and again more accessible. So it's tough for people at the moment just to come in and have a net. Whereas actually what we want it to be is that you can turn up at a different ground and you can have a net where it's not going to always be booked because that's where people improve. They get on the nets and they practice. I think that's something which I learned from my time when I spent a bit of time in Australia is pretty much every park has got 3 or 4 lanes in the corner, which that's amazing because basically you can go down and you can train. Yeah, some club nets are locked, but other nets are usually open. And you can go down and actually just train, which is fantastic. Which that's the sort of goal where we need to get to is making everything accessible, so it's open to anybody really.
Yes, absolutely. That's one of the challenges that many associate countries have, and many people don't have any turf nets to practice or turf wickets. It's synthetic or artificial across the associate world, especially in many countries where they don't have access to that. So we're
quite fortunate there because we have a couple of grass grounds. We're looking to get our 3rd grass ground back. We haven't got grass wickets to train on other than on the square, but we've got a couple of cages that we push out on the square so we can train on the square. But yeah, it's just really for us is having that opportunity to train on both. We've got a really good relationship with the ground here where we're based. And actually they let us use the square a lot. So if there's a used wicket, I can usually get on the used wicket during the week as well. So that allows our teams to train on a grass wicket, which is massive in terms of the way a cricket ball acts on a grass wicket is completely different to what it does on a syntho. So yeah. That's completely different. But yeah, I think like you said is some nations will have other revenues where they try and use that funding towards. Us is huge is on facilities. So that's sort of number 1 on our priority.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I always ask this question, Ben, to all the guests I've had on this Associate Cricket series about their relationship with the ICC. the ICC, they're not the flavour of the month at the moment in some aspects of the world game. But in terms of relationships with associate cricket, many people have said the regional bodies, so for example, ICC Europe, etc., they've been very helpful in terms of helping associate countries in their own region. Many people have said those bodies have certainly helped us a lot. So what's your relationship with, obviously, ICC Europe in terms of them working with you guys in terms of achieving some criteria that you have to meet? What's that relationship been like with them?
Yeah, so that's something that sits really above me a little bit. So the CEO, Carl Brooks, for us, just attended a regional conference, which he's come back with glowing reports on. So he was really grateful that could go ahead. And actually, he said it's, you get to pick the other CEO's brains, you get to chat to the ICC about different bits. We're pretty fortunate in the ICC. We've got a couple of guys there that are good in Europe. So Andy Wright is someone that I've got quite close contacts with. He's been fantastic. He really does try and look after the associates and really does try and fight our corner. And then we've got Michael Kenoy as well, who's another person within the system who's been great. Little things like they put a lot of trust in us, I think, actually, as well, which is nice. So, we're probably one of the more developed nations in Europe. So like this year, we're hosting a tournament that's huge for Guernsey, and that, we're grateful that we actually get that opportunity to host. So with that, we can actually end up having a tournament on Ireland, which our kids can aspire to. And it's something that we've always done pretty well is tournament hosting. So yeah, I think our relationship with the ICC is good. And I appreciate that a lot of the decisions are probably taken above them. The guys we speak to in Europe is probably not just them that makes those decisions. And yeah, I also, I'm not stupid in terms of, I know the funding's going to go heavier to test playing nations and the guys that get the TV rights. So yeah, I think that's, to be in the ICC is better than being out of it, I think. So yeah, it's definitely something that's beneficial.
Yes, absolutely. And we've seen the ICC have more teams in the T20 World Cup this year in America and the Caribbean, 20 teams. So cricket in the Olympics is pretty big as well. From your perspective, what do those things mean for you, looking from afar? What do you think about those improvements that the ICC have made in terms of cricket's inclusion in the Olympics, more teams in a T20 World Cup now? What's your take on those improvements?
So I think it can only really be a positive thing for us. One of the challenges with cricket I always find is it's not that readily available on standard TV. Again, something which you do very well in Australia. It's always on Channel 7 or Channel 9. But actually in the UK, if you haven't got Sky Sports, just try to watch a bit of cricket. So that's something that, I really want kids to watch cricket and to learn cricket. You learn a lot by just watching the game. So, if you're sort of a student of the game, you're going to understand more about the rules, the fielding positions, everything. So I think the ICC getting that into Olympics, etc., has been massive. And I think that, like you said, is that tournament in America is only going to grow cricket in America. Like I said, is for us hosting a tournament's huge for us as well. So that's big. But yeah, it's kind of that little bit around that. There's obviously the 100 competition, which has had a bit of kickback in the UK. There's sort of two ways of looking at it. For me, I chat to a couple of kids that I go and see in schools, and they say, so where have you learnt to bowl? I watched the 100 because it was on BBC. So they've got access to something which they wouldn't have had before. So there is pros and cons. Yes, it's another competition. Yes, it can be a bit confusing. But actually, it's getting a different audience into cricket, which, yeah, I think stuff like that is only good. So more cricket readily available to watch and to sort of understand what's going on, I think is good, because that's something which is going to make it more accessible. I think the nature of cricket is people have always thought, well, with cricket, actually, it's a bit confusing. I don't really know what's going on. And with it being confusing, they then probably don't want to get involved too much in it. And it's hard. It's a harder sell, if you like. So, yeah, I think it can only really be positive, that sort of stuff.
Yes, absolutely. Is that the case in club cricket and your part of the woods in terms of, trying to incorporate multi-day cricket, or is it just one day and T20 stuff to try and get people interested? Because often that can turn people off the longer form of the game that people,
I think
don't
that's it.
want to play.
I think the longer format is a tough sell. If you ask me if I wanted to play a bit of 2-day cricket, yeah, great, that would be good fun. But if you ask someone else who's probably, I don't know, 15 or 16, do they want to play some 2-day cricket? They're probably watching the IPL and they want to see the ball go into the stands for 6. So yeah, it's a very different sort of audience, if you like. You will get those players that do want to play a longer format. To be honest, longer format in Guernsey is going to be tough. One, because of the amount of teams we've got, and like we said, the facilities we've currently got. So with that being a bit tougher, we haven't got the scope to have 2-day cricket. We only play sort of white ball cricket at the moment within the adult leagues, and in the juniors we do play some red ball games. We quite like the fact that the juniors can actually learn how to swing a ball and use a ball properly. But yeah, that's it. It's only really going to be a shorter formats for us, I think. We do play 1-day cricket. We play T20 cricket. We've also introduced a T10 competition this year, which has had sort of mixed reviews. But, that it's sort of just trying to cater for everyone, I think, for us, is that if we can have some 1-day stuff, can we also have some T20? Can we also have some 16 over? Can we also have some T10 and some 100 ball stuff, just to try and give everyone a go, and it sort of captures everyone then.
Yes, that's exactly right. And also associate countries have to go away from the traditional path of trying to grow and develop the game, let's just say here in Australia or England, because you have to try different methods and ways of getting people involved. Has that been the case, for Guernsey cricket, going away from the norm and trying to come up with a system that is effective and gets results?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think we've been really flexible in terms of what our domestic program looks like, and so much so that it's no secret that some people don't want to give up their Saturdays and play a whole day on a Saturday, but others will. So others that have ambitions playing for Guernsey, they're definitely going to want to do that, and juniors coming through definitely want to do that. So it's just making sure that your structures are flexible, that they can change. And it might be that if at the moment T20 is the focus, then that might need to be our focus to get ICC recognition and doing a bit more of the ICC. We were sort of like, before T20 cricket came in, that we sort of were the guys that really tried it years ago in Guernsey. So that was evenly cricket for us. So we played evenly cricket, and T20 before T20 was actually sort of on the mainstream of ICC and even ECB. We played T20 before it was T20 in the UK. So then that sort of structure is big for us. But yeah, I think a lot of ours will be derived around what the ICC currently would like, and also what we want to achieve within ICC. So with that, we do get back into 50 over cricket. So that is vitally important for us. So we are putting more time onto that. And yeah, I think it can only be a good thing.
Definitely, absolutely can. It can benefit everyone within the game of cricket, that's for sure. In terms of volunteers, people who want to be umpires, scorers, and coaches, how are those numbers looking for people to sign up and wanting to give back to the game?
So yeah, we've got a big push at the moment on recruiting umpires and scorers. So that's a big driver for us. That sits sort of just outside Guernsey Cricket. So there's a separate organisation that run the umpires and scorers. And then, yeah, for us, in terms of coaches, we're really open to coaches, to volunteer coaches. We put them all through a qualification as well, so that they all get sort of, at the moment, all the ones that are currently coaching the system are level 2 or above. So that's big. Like, we've got level 2 coaches and above, which is huge for us. So yeah, I think for us is that's the benefit of that is really that, we can't run the program with the staffing with solely paid members of staff, and actually our program's only getting bigger and bigger. So we need to make sure that we cater for volunteers as well, and we've got some fantastic volunteer coaches in there that give up endless amounts of time. And yeah, that we're incredibly grateful for them. We are still trying to improve that as well and get more volunteer coaches there. So, it's not just the ones that were currently in the system. It's looking at the next ones down, or ones that might want to get involved in the game. And then there's also all these other roles as well. So around stats and statistics and analysis, these are other roles that are cropping up. With us trying to be more professional, that requires more members of staff, and they might not be paid members of staff. It might be more volunteer based. Might be someone that's interested in going to university and studying the analysis around sport, so they could actually come and do some analysis for Guernsey cricket and then use that in their degree. So yeah, I think we are incredibly grateful and indebted to these people that give up their time as volunteers.
Yes, absolutely. Because without volunteers, you wouldn't have, cricket clubs or cricket teams around the world. So, that's pretty much the lifeblood of any cricketing organisation or team or club. It's so important.
Yeah, 100%. I think, you've hit the nail on the head there. Is that they're the reason why games of cricket go ahead. We've got a junior league, which is run solely by volunteers, which, that if they weren't there, then there's kids there missing out on cricket. So yeah, that's huge for us, and I think long may that continue.
Yes, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And as to the ICC with coaching clinics and doing that, helping associate countries implement those structures in place, and also scoring. People don't have to do it the old-fashioned way by pen and paper; just have to do it on an app, so it's much easier for them. Yeah. So we're trying to make it easier and showing people that it is easy, it's simple, it's not really that complicated. Once we break it down, then more people will join and give up their time and volunteer. So hopefully that is the case in all parts of the cricketing world, not just in the associate world, when it comes to that. So that's really encouraging to hear that more people want to give back and do that. In terms of the numbers around boys and girls, coming from, that age in school, young age, how are those numbers are looking? A lot more female players interested and boys as well that want to learn more and want to keep playing cricket and want to get more and more of it.
Yeah. So our numbers have had a huge spike over the last sort of 12 months. With us splitting off two different roles, so cricket development manager and then mine more of the pathway role, that has led to an increase in sessions. So we have a development squad and a representative squad at every single age group, which has sort of doubled our numbers. So I think when I did the stats over the winter, we were 64% up in terms of numbers across the pathway. And then there's a huge amount more in girls cricket as well. So yeah, we've sort of doubled our numbers in that. So yeah, for us, that's huge. It's giving enough kids opportunities to play cricket and having a structure in place, because we're every 2 years. A development and representative squad is quite key. So if you come out of under 11s and you're a young under 11, you're going into under 13s. Well, that's quite a big jump then. So actually, having that development squad might aid them to develop a bit more. Some people will jump that. Some people will be strong enough in the representative squad straight the way through, so coming straight out of under 11s. But yeah, that's sort of the structure we got in place. So we are trying to get that structure in place in the girls' game as well. That's going to take a bit of time. Like I said before, it's about filtering those numbers through. But yeah, our numbers are really encouraging over the winter, and now we've gone outside in the summer, and we've got a junior league which is bolstered by numbers. In the end, we almost have too many, so we're not far off having an extra team in a junior league, which is great. So we're having good problems at the moment, not bad problems. So we've almost got too many, and so it's finding a way of resourcing that and finding a way of facilitating a practice for them and making sure that they're getting what they need out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more, and really encouraging to hear that the growth and development of the game in Guernsey is really in a good place, and the programs and structures you put in as a team are certainly working and having an effect. So let's hope in the years to come that those numbers keep climbing, and more people are interested in playing the sport, and that's what you want at the end of the day. More people, playing the sport and volunteering and being a part of it. So it's really fantastic to hear those numbers are good and looking to improve each on every year. So thanks for sharing those insights with us, Ben, when it comes to the growth and development of the game in Guernsey. Ben, we've finally reached the last topic of our long discussion. I've enjoyed it immensely. We've only got one more topic to go, Ben, and that's to talk about what the future holds for cricket in Guernsey. It's very hard to predict the future, as we know. It's very uncertain. But if you had to look into the crystal ball and predict what the outlook and the future of cricket in Guernsey may be, so Ben, how do you see Guernsey cricket and associate cricket going into the future? Your thoughts on that to end our chat today?
See, I think for us, it's trying to be, our best practice would be to try and follow an English county structure and have sort of like the same pathway as an English county. It's no secret we are a bit smaller than English counties, so it's trying to make sure that our structures align with theirs, and we try and compete at county level. So there's no reason why, if we don't sink the amount of quality coaching and resources into players, that we can't achieve that. And it might be that will take sort of 4 or 5 years. So with that sort of like number one aim across the juniors. For the seniors, it's trying to get as high as we can and compete at the highest level as possible. And that's across both men's and women's T20s and 40 or 50 over cricket. So yeah, for us, it's really a mixed structure there. We're just trying to make sure that, we have ambitions to play at the highest level possible. For me, nothing more will please me than seeing a couple of lads or a couple of girls go through and play some county cricket and come through our pathway that they've actually achieved that. So yeah, I think like you said, it's tough to sort of look into the crystal ball, but in an ideal world that we would be involved in sort of 50 over cricket as well as T20. And that will be really beneficial towards Guernsey. So yeah, I think that's kind of our main ambitions, if you like.
Definitely, I couldn't agree more. And hopefully those predictions come true in the near future, Ben. But thank you for looking into the crystal ball and trying to predict these things. But let's hope that's the case for Guernsey cricket going into the years to come. And it can only benefit the game in the long run. So thanks for sharing that with us, Ben. Ben, thank you for joining me today for this Associate Cricket Series episode to discuss all things Guernsey cricket. I really appreciate speaking to you today. Thank you so much for giving up your time. I've learned so much, and I'm sure our listeners and watchers have certainly learned a lot about Guernsey cricket by listening to you ramble on about all things the great and good about Guernsey cricket today, which is fantastic. Ben, if people want to get in touch with you, where can they do that? If they want to make some inquiries to Guernsey cricket, if they're interested about going to Guernsey to play some cricket or club cricket, where can people do that?
So yeah, two ways. One, through the website is as easy. All my contact details are on there. But by email, just ben@guernseycricket.com. So yeah, pretty easy one to remember. But yeah, all my details are on the website. So you're best to jump onto Guernsey Cricket and make contact through there. Alternatively, any of the social medias, we're pretty good at coming back to people on social media. So yeah, if there's usually an inquiry, we usually do try and accommodate wherever we can.
Yeah, fantastic. We'll leave links to those in the description of this episode for people to check out, and they want to make some inquiries to Ben or to Guernsey cricket, or just want to go to Guernsey for a holiday and experience what the cricket culture is there. Do it. It's a good part of the world. It's one of those places that you should go and visit. Maybe I should one day, maybe in the near future. Then go and play a game of cricket, or just enjoy the scenery and see a game of cricket played there. But it's definitely worth it, that's for sure. And definitely get on board with that, everyone. So we'll leave the links to those in the description of this episode, as I said, for people to check it out if they want to make some inquiries. And Ben will be more than happy to accommodate you and set you up over there in Guernsey if you're interested. Before we go, remember to like, share, comment, subscribe, and click the bell to make sure you get the latest episodes of the podcast. Be sure to like and share our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter and on Instagram. So the podcast is available on Anchor, Spotify, and on Apple Podcasts. Once again, thank you, Ben, for joining me today to discuss all things Guernsey cricket. I hope all of you watching or listening to this Associate Cricket Series episode learned a lot about cricket in Guernsey from Ben. Until next time, keep safe and bye for now.